Hey, what's going on people? It's SGZ here from the SpartanGameZone, and in this video we'll be celebrating Borderlands 3's third birthday bonanza by highlighting the lasting effect this game has built over the last 3 years. It seems that with every day that goes by it gets a little bit better, and I consider myself lucky to have experienced all it has to offer. Doesn't look like anything is on the cards for the celebration at Gearbox's end, but here we are. Maybe they're busy planning for Borderlands 2's 10-year birthday bash. Either way, don't forget to wish Borderlands 3 a happy birthday in the comments, write something nice on the card, and do the same for your grandma if it's her birthday too, and let's crack into it. So it's a little crazy to think that Borderlands 3 is out of the terrible 2s and into the terrific 3s. I don't know the code names, but I'm sure they don't just apply to babies. Borderlands 3 had big boots to fill, following the critically acclaimed Borderlands 2 as the next mainline game in the series. Naturally, it was the most hotly anticipated launch in the history of the Borderlands franchise, and still remains that way to this day. It sold 50% more copies in the first 5 days than Borderlands 2 did, highlighting its incredibly successful launch. It was a 7-year wait for another big number to get slapped against the Borderlands name, and they played it safe. It didn't propel the franchise as far along as Borderlands 2 did, but it was a game that constantly evolved and in itself just kept getting better and better. Knowing what I know now, Borderlands 3 was an absolute gift. To have a game that can provide for 2 years straight with no slowing down is quite unreal. And I think we can all appreciate that we may have treated it a little harshly. To end with the build depth and almost limitless content we have today, and still see areas where this game could have blown through the roof, is a credit to it and lights a beacon for the future. Borderlands 4, don't let me down. Borderlands 3 brought with it much of what we had seen in Borderlands 2, but with far superior gunplay and more. Simply more ways to build your Vault Hunter, much more gear to hunt down, and effectively more fun to be had. Mayhem levels were a more accessible take on OP levels there from the start. We started with 3, then 4, and ended up where we are now with 11, bringing with them Mayhem modifiers which shook up the gameplay, or could eventually be turned off altogether. Anointments added another layer to each and every item that could have them, part numbers grew, and manufacturers were given more personality with unique abilities. Jacobs with ricocheting bullets on critical hits, Maliwan's multi-elements, Blood of Underbarrels, Torg stickies, dial firing modes, and COV for going magazines for overheating. The base game includes the familiar round-based mode filled with waves of bad guys. There's 3 of them, all voiced by Mr. Torg. We have the Cistern of Slaughter, Slaughter Shaft, and Slaughter Star 3000, but also received new pieces of content like Proving Grounds, of which there are 6 in the base game. They involve fighting your way through an area packed with enemies, ticking off side objectives along the way before you reach the boss fight and score a chance at some sweet loot. It was a game supported from start to finish, with the Maliwan takedown launching a whole new type of content to widespread acclaim. Heading up the Maliwan black side is one of the most enjoyable things in the whole series, let alone Borderlands 3. Fighting your way through swarms of Maliwan soldiers, taking on a group of advanced mechs, and testing your mettle against Wotan the Invincible may as well have just come out yesterday, because it never gets old. The Guardian takedown would be the second and last takedown Borderlands 3 received, and it's a shame there wasn't one more. It hit home runs with its massive free content drops. Aside from the takedowns, we have the Bloody Harvest, a Halloween themed event, which brought with it a brand new mechanic in the form of terror. The Cartel event expanded the anointment pool, introducing some of the best in the game, along with some absolute shooty batooty weaponry, and the Broken Hearts Day event made us feel even more lonely. I mean, we got some new guns though, right? What am I doing with my life? Across those 3 events and its 6 DLC packs, we were taken beyond Pandora and its moon to new planets, places, and concepts like Krieg's Mine. Instead of getting new Vault Hunters, all of the existing Vault Hunters were expanded with the addition of a 4th skill tree, and we even bore witness to a brand new game mode, Arms Race. Arms Race could have been a lot more than what it was if they chose to expand it, But to get something so far from the norm was a great surprise, especially from a game playing it safe. Post-launch content really was the meat of the Borderlands sandwich, with 4 massive story DLCs to sink our teeth into within its first year. We visited the handsome Jackpot, defeating the ugly Pretty Boy, attended the wedding of Wainwright and Hammerlock, got narrated on in the Old West, and helped a lovable Psycho ease their suffering. The content didn't stop there either, with some more story content to come later in Season Pass 2, including 3 vault cards packed with new weapons and cosmetics. And of course, the first and only traditional raid boss, Hemovirus the Invincible. Each DLC brought with it a bounty of new loot, which was a concept Gearbox took to a completely new level. Loot is the staying power of Borderlands 3, there's just so much of it, and so much variety within it, that you have an almost endless supply to hunt down. That's compounded by the fact that over 90% of legendaries available to you can handle the game's toughest challenges. There's over 350 of them across weapons, shields, grenades, artifacts and class mods. They all fit a purpose, and every one has a specific farm target that'll help you get it in a reasonable amount of time. Borderlands 3 understood that there is no point in having all these bosses, all these missions, all this content if people were just going to experience them once, or have all these weapons and support gear if players only use the top 2%. By spreading out the monstrous loot pool and making the majority of that loot feel powerful, unique or purposeful, the game grew on its own, and that was an amazing sight to see. You're not farming savagely for a Harold and Hunter Hellquest for the B, you're farming Queen Antoinette for a Transformer, or L Dragon Jr. for a stopgap, Turnkey Tim for the Maggie, or Captain Trot for a Calcin, and so much more. That depth and variety is its biggest badge of honor, with its popularity remaining strong among players till this day. The thing I'm most impressed by is its evolution, the dedication given to it post-launch, and that's what I miss the most. This game felt treasured by Gearbox and publishers 2K. It was by far their biggest launch to date, and they were wanting to make every post a winner. Even when it wasn't, they dug it up, stuck a new coat of paint on it, and put it back into the ground. The Melee-One takedown launched with fixed 4-player difficulty and was incredibly hard for solo players. It was even harder than making a new friend, which, isn't very balanced. So what did they do? They ran an event where they scaled it down to your party size. That event difficulty would be the standard difficulty from that day on, and they did add the ability to experience the original difficulty level a little later. Although it didn't happen instantly, it did happen, and the game continued to be better for it. And that's all thanks to them listening to community feedback and applying it to the game. The Mayhem 2.0 launch obliterated any existing balancing, but they worked on it, told us they were working on it, and made improvements where they needed to be made. The Guardian takedown launched with ads having health bars almost as big as Greatwood, but they fixed that too. The understanding that especially nowadays, game development is a journey. These games change over time, and if you're committed to taking in and actioning community feedback, your game will benefit from that. Borderlands 3 benefited not only from that two-way dialogue, but from a development team that didn't stop supporting their creation. And for that, it should be celebrated. Thanks to the massive effort and dedication given to it post-launch, it remains a pillar of the looter-shooter genre, which will hold firm for many years to come. Bring on Season Pass 3. So that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Wished a happy birthday to Borderlands 3 and learned of its lasting impact, or at least how I see it. If you did, consider dropping a like or subscribing, and I'll catch you in the next one.